Alright guys, welcome back. We are watching Bakemonogatari episode 14. This is the penultimate episode. Before we start, I want to talk about something. You can skip to the reaction if you just want to watch that, because I'm going to talk for a little bit. So, this is something I've noticed that I've done in my reactions. Because, okay, so first of all, this is all based off of one single comment that I got on my last Higurashi video, which a lot of people don't watch that. So this is all in relation to something that most people didn't even watch or have any idea what I'm talking about. So, but a tendency that I've noticed that I have is when I'm doing the discussion, or even when I'm watching a show, an anime, right? I have this tendency of just not mentioning things that's, to me, it's like obvious, right? It's something that I notice and that I certainly picked up on and that I noticed. But to me, it's just obvious, or it's just like something plot related, not something related to like the characters and their emotions and what the author might be trying to imply through those, stuff like that. That's the type of thing I really always want to get into when I'm discussing stuff. That's what really matters to me about like stories. So when there's something specific about like plot related stuff that happens or some specific event that to me has some obvious outcome or means something obvious, I don't even bother mentioning it because like I don't know. I just feel like it's obvious to me, so it must be obvious that I picked up on it. But obviously, you guys don't know that because you aren't inside of my head. So, like, maybe I'm just being crazy because I got one single comment from one person pointing out that I did this. But I feel like I rewatched some of my discussions, and I feel like I've done it more often than that. So, I might just be completely insane, and I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But I hope that hasn't bothered people. I guess I hope you know what? I who cares? I'm probably just absolutely overreacting to nothing. But I guess I'm gonna try and do better with that because I've realized I think it. I don't know. I can imagine it annoying some people. So I don't know. I'm not trying to like. This isn't me being like, oh, look at me, my everything I've been saying. I'm not trying to like get pity or something and acting like I'm not saying that I think I've been doing badly or something. I think I've been pretty happy with my interpretations of this show and stuff so far. I just think I don't know. I think I can definitely get better at sharing information in a way that doesn't come across as dismissive of aspects of the story um, beyond just the characters and their emotions and what the author could be trying to imply through that. So yeah, I don't know. Who cares? I just felt the need to say this, I guess. Anyway, all that aside, we are starting Bakemonogatari episode 14, Tsubasa Cat Part 4. There's a Patreon down in the description if you want the reaction with the image and everything. Otherwise, you can line up your own copy with this if you want to, but we are starting in 3, 2, 1. I like when they do the helicopter noises with the shots like that. It's very interesting. Ooh, it's a cool shot. Well, similar to last time. What, they just tied her up? Did Oshino do that? Okay. And yeah, it certainly was not sealed away. The catalyst of the stress was never dealt with. In fact, there's a new catalyst now. Hmm. Mm-hmm. And it built up fast this time. I wonder if Aragi has any idea at all. Bell around her neck. Headaches? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Now I wonder if Oshino knows what's causing the stress. I don't know. I'm just curious. I wonder how much insight into. Okay, from that line, I feel like Oshino must certainly have an idea. Okay. Mm-hmm. To be fair, it doesn't matter how much, it was really cleared up by Shinobu, sucking it out. I mean, who knows how that works, but I think you can, Aragi. Interesting. Hmm. I feel like you can apply that line to other stuff at Aragi, maybe. What? Nekobe Neko. Hmm. Well, about that. I didn't even think about that. About Shinobu's not around this time, right? She's off in the middle of the desert. Which I don't know, yeah, Shinobu's gone. I feel like, hmm, man, yeah, we got a couple major problems here, don't we? Because, Shinobu's missing, which not only is that a problem for this situation, but Shinobu's missing. I feel like that alone for Aragi. On a journey to find herself. All right. Because, like, that alone for Aragi, just Shinobu missing. I think he has been very dismissive of her to other people. Um, but I think he cares about Shinobu, and I don't think he's going to be fine with her wandering off somewhere. you know, I don't know. Especially if she relies on him for like being alive, which it seems like she might. Different visuals for the opening. Hmm. Waiting isn't going to solve it, unfortunately. Just going to make it worse, if anything. Oh, okay. I do wonder. Oh, wow. All right. I forgot what I was going to say. My bad. Ooh. I think I liked that one more. But, I mean, I don't know. Very different. The first one was cool because it, like, had I don't know. This is the penultimate episode, indeed. Oh, no text flashes. Yeah, just immediately going to look for Shinobu. Because I guess, finding her is kind of the solution to both of these problems, right? Interesting. He has to be near her. Huh. How does that work, though? Because, like, okay, and I guess this is someplace nearby. It's not actually in the middle of the desert. And that's just, like, visual, the show being weird. Anyway, it's weird. Why does he have to be near her? Right? Because she is the one who turned him into a vampire, right? You would think it would almost be like the other way around. Ah, might be. I don't know. I wonder if Shinobu can see Hachikuji. Oh, true. She has experience with lost children, I suppose, herself. Ah, Nadeko. Yeah, get out with it. Funny story. It's not time for that. What? Is this just the exact same thing? Okay. Did she? All right. Oh, is she the one who called in with that? I thought she was just listening to it at the same time, but maybe she's the one who called in with that joke. That's great. Hmm. It's interesting that he's so willing to seek help from other people with this problem. I guess because it's for Shinobu's sake instead of his own, you know? Even though, in a way, it's for his own as well. Hmm. We haven't seen Combro in a little bit. don't don't say that. She didn't even know it was him. She just said that anyway. Yeah, it doesn't look like she's him. Great. Yeah, he should have guessed that. It's not even that much, is it? Is it like a gotcha game? What on earth? No, this again, she's alright. So then what? Is Senjo Gahara the last one with the thing about the DVDs? Because it wouldn't be Hanakawa, right? What? Why would that be the solution? Okay. Oh, okay. Why is she even like? All right, all right, all right. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what was that? Was that even the first episode when he was explaining that he named her? I wonder how much he's told Senju about all of that stuff. Is it obvious? I don't know. I don't think it is for Araragi. Hmm. Hmm. They definitely have some good decorations for it. They have a tank. I don't know where they got that from. Hmm. A little bit ominous, huh? Very ominous. You know, not that I think Aragi's gonna die, but oh, she's not there anymore. Hmm. Interesting. What's up? It's, I was waving at him. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Oh, please give me some information about it. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. I wonder. Oh, hi. Please don't kill me. I don't know. With you, we'll see. Is that so? I'm, hmm, maybe. Yeah. Okay. If you say so. Yeah. Well, he did say, um, that you're gonna have to start dealing with stuff by yourself, right? And he was acting kind of weird yesterday, or in the last episode. This is much. They're having a much more chill interaction than in that flashback where she was trying to kill him. What is that? All right. Okay. All right. It's just gonna be nya nya nya. Yeah. That's great. How many times do you think it took the voice actress to say that? Came to help out. All right. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. I wonder if this is more so because Araragi is the source of her stress. Hmm. Her going wild and attacking random people has nothing to do with it. Of course, I don't know how that had anything to do with it the first time either. But hmm, what is that pose? Just gonna change pose every time. Hmm. I suppose with Shinobu. Hmm. I couldn't tell you. Is that a pun? I don't know. I don't know. Someone got to explain that one to me. Probably if I listened to it. Hmm. uh, okay. Oh, all right. The energy drain thing, right? Was this just like a trap, or awesome? Awesome, great. Is she just like dumb? I guess I don't know. I don't know how she could forget about her own ability. Hmm. I'm gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about. Hmm. Man, is that really just what she means, or I wonder if that question is deeper than that. He sure has. Mm-hmm. Chimera. Mm-hmm. Said Oni. It's very interesting. Hmm. We keep going back and forth between him calling himself a human and calling himself a vampire. Hmm. Mm-hmm. It's almost like for him, he needs to pick a side. Huh. And I wonder how much of this is Hanakawa's words herself, right? Hmm. I don't think it's that. I think it's yeah. I think it's about getting along with aberrations. Hmm. Knows his place. Hmm. Like I'm just thinking a lot. Sorry, I'm not saying much. I don't think it's that. Hmm. But I guess I'll just have to talk about it. I can't tell how much of that is Hanakawa's words basically coming through Black Hanakawa in relation specifically to her situation. Um, well, he said if turn into a shadow. Wow, vampires have a lot of powers, huh? Mm-hmm. He said she's weaker than a normal kid if he's not around her. So, yeah, doing the thing he was thinking about, thinking of her as a normal kid. Hmm. Okay. I think she's only been drinking his blood. Hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it could just be, just like Hanakawa's problem. I just jealousy, right? That would kind of make sense with her glaring at Nadeko. Um, Screwed. Hmm. Yeah, that is what Oshino said. He can go back to being human. It's so, wow. Man, he has a whole lot of people that he owes his life, huh? Hanakawa and Shinobu, at least. Hmm. Yeah, I think there is. Depends on what you mean by deal with. Because how do you deal with this, right? Because the whole, him dating Hanakawa instead is impossible. Yeah, I don't think it's actually gonna be easy though. That's what she thinks about her own feelings, right? Mm-hmm. Hmm. Ah, not not gonna be possible. Unfortunately. Yeah. So, yeah, that is that. Unfortunately, that solution, Hanakawa might say it's easy, but oh, the ending's different again. But it's not. It's not easy. If anything, I feel like it would be harder for Aragi than, letting someone kill him, like in Suruga Monkey. I'm really trying to decide how much I think all of that stuff that Black Hanakawa said is really just Hanakawa's words. Because I don't know, I don't really buy the whole possession thing, right? I don't really believe that she's like that. This is really just some random cat that is possessing her, and everything it says has nothing to do with like because that's the way she views her own problem, right? Whatever. We'll talk about it in the discussion. I don't want to talk about it here because people will miss it. Man, I'm so the Shinobu stuff is very interesting. I only get this ending one more time after this, don't I? That's very sad. Hmm. All right, and another preview. We probably won't have one next episode, will we? Whoa, he has quite a few now. Come on, he has like five or something. Yeah, I think it is kind of lonely. Sure, that makes him sound awesome. Like that's a kind of an existential question. Yeah, that's scary. All right, I will see you guys in the discussion. Alrighty, let's go through the episode. So, man, that was we got a lot of info in this episode. I feel like we actually, man, on some stuff we've been waiting to have info for a while, mainly about Shinobu, right? I guess let's talk about that first because I don't want to forget to talk about it because there were really only a few lines about it. Um, so one, I've mentioned a few times about how in the past, Araragi, when he's explaining who Shinobu is to people, right? 'Cause that's happened a couple times with Senjugahara, with Kambaru. He refers to Shinobu as like nothing and no one, something they don't need to worry about, right? Um, and all of this, which makes you feel like he almost has like this dismissive attitude about her. But I'm wondering now. I should have thought of this before because it makes sense, right? Like, I'm wondering now, he obviously feels very bad about whatever happened with her, right? He blames himself, right? Like, Oshino said a few times that it was Shinobu who attacked him, for example. And he says, but he has reiterated several times that he thinks it's his fault. So if we take it to that, if we take it as he thinks it's his fault that Shinobu is in the state that she's in now, which if this is her, which would be kind of this is her, obviously, right? No idea what on earth is going on here. She has no arms or legs and is dying in a tunnel. But like she obviously used to be in a much different state than she's in now. I think that was already kind of obvious, right? Because now she's this little girl who sits in the corner and mopes all day. And so having put someone in that position in Aragi's mind, right? He blames himself for the position that she's in. You know, he's put her in that position, so he feels bad about it. Obviously, that's why he says like, he feels responsible for her for the rest of his life, right? I assume again that she has to. The only way she can survive is by drinking his blood. Um, so he is responsible for her basically, right? In his mind, even just beyond just keeping her alive, he blames himself for the position that she's in general, her being in this state, and like obviously she doesn't seem to be very happy, so that probably doesn't help it. And I think the reason why he's acted so dismissive of her to other people, like when Shinjagahara asked about her, when Kanbaru asked about her, I don't think it's because he's dismissive about Shinobu. I think it's because he's like, he feels bad about it. He's like almost embarrassed about it, right? He doesn't want to explain it to other people because he feels like it's like this awful thing that he's done, that he doesn't want to talk about with other people, right? Because that makes a lot more sense with why his attitude would be like this. And then, we're skipping around, but let's go to when they bring up Shinobu again here. We're talking about that in a little bit. But yeah, it's all this stuff about how he would be better off abandoning Shinobu so he could become human again, which, man, it's very interesting because we've gone back and forth between referring to him as a vampire, as an aberration, and as a human, right? Sometimes he refers to himself as a human. Sometimes other characters refer to as a human, right? Like Black Hanakawa here, she's been calling him human this whole time, but now here she says you can go back to being human if you abandon her. So it is interesting. It's yeah, I don't know, because that combined with all the stuff she said about how it's almost like you can't be uh, you can't be like, you have to pick a side pretty much. You're either an aberration or you're a human. I don't know. It's interesting. And yeah, I mean, I assume all of this about how he doesn't care if she kills him, if she dies tomorrow, he might as well die as well. For one, it's very similar to stuff he said to Hanakawa in the last episode, right? And yeah, this makes complete sense. If he completely blames himself for the position that Shinobu is in, then yeah, it makes sense why he would think like this, right? That he's put her in this position where she seems to be miserable, and I mean, again, we don't know the details of it, and the fact that it's Araragi thinking this makes me assume there's a lot more to the story than however Araragi views it in his mind, right? I'm sure, I mean, maybe not, but I imagine it's not that simple, that it's all Araragi's fault. And, because that's kind of, he has a tendency to do that, right? To blame himself. And it is interesting, like, I wonder what Hanakawa is thinking here after he says that. Because he said something very similar to her, just in the last episode, right? About how, he owes her his life and all of this, right? He says this very similar thing about Shinobu here, about how he's willing to die for her, all of this. And I don't know, we just get this very interesting shot of her clearly thinking and saying, I see. So it makes me wonder, like, she says here, there's an easy way to ball me back up, right? If the source of the stress is dealt with, I'll go away. Well, we know what the source of the stress is. She's in love with Araragi, and him dating Shinjagahara has been a bit of an issue, right? And she wants him to fall in love with her. But, well, that's one way to deal with it, right? Could another way to deal with the stress be Araragi not being around anymore? Right? I mean, it could be. That's what it makes me think with this shot, right? Because it's Araragi saying, if I don't care if Shinobu kills me, I might as well just die for her. Well, he said something very similar to Hanakawa just last episode, so I just wonder if in Hanakawa's mind, she's just thinking like, you would be willing to die for me as well, right? Because that is another way to deal with the stress, right? I think we've kind of already treaded over that, right, with Kanbaru, and the ending to that arc. Although it wasn't really dealt with exactly. It was just Shinjagahara showed up and scolded Araragi for what he was thinking and doing, pretty much. But Araragi kind of thought about it in this really stupid way and it wasn't really resolved, I think. That tendency in him to decide to let someone kill him to solve the problem, I don't think that's really been solved. Even though I think the same arguments why it was a bad thing when he tried to let Kanbaru kill him would also apply here. The difference in this case, of course, is, he didn't feel as indebted to Kanbaru. Of course, with Kanbaru, I think he's still fed indebted to her in a way because he felt like she is more deserving of Senjugahara than he is. But in this case, with Hanakawa, with his feelings about Hanakawa and how he thinks, he owes her his life. So, her killing him would be fine, right? Because that's what he says is he owes her his life. So I don't know. I'm if that's where it's gonna go, because the whole dating Hanakawa thing is never gonna happen. That's just like him deciding, okay, I'll break up with Senjugahara and date you instead. That would be more ridiculous than him letting her kill him. So that will not happen. That's not possible because of Senjugahara. And obviously, him letting her kill him is also not possible because of Senjugahara. So I just don't think it'll be as easy for him to have that thought process, right? Um, anyway, what was I even talking about? I don't even know. So let's talk about Black Hanakawa, because, and yeah, I mean, okay, no, let's not talk about Black Hanakawa. Let's talk about Shinobu again for just a second. All this stuff, it really, you know, drives it home about how Shinobu used to be a vampire from, a legendary vampire and all of this, and how now she's just this little kid who can't do anything, who's weaker than a kid. Um, and it's like him being near her apparently is what gives her power, which is really weird because in my mind I would think like if she made him a vampire, why would you would almost think it would have to be the other way around, that she would have to be near him, that he would be the weaker one. But I guess whatever resulted in her being in this weakened state um has something to do with that. I really don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what the mechanics behind it could possibly be. Because there's the stuff too about how if she drinks his blood, he gets stronger. Um, but he has to be near her for her to be stronger. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sorry if it's obvious. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I don't know. I'm sure I'll figure it out. Right. I really hope it's not like some giant thing that I'm missing, but I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. So I'm sorry. I guess. Even though I feel like it's just annoying me because I feel like I could, but I don't see how these things connect. They like don't make sense to me. Um, huh. I don't know. I don't know. Um, okay, let's kind of go through more chronologically now, because I think that Shinobu stuff is the stuff I really wanted to talk about. So Oshino's acting weird at the beginning here, because I think Oshino knows what's going on. I think he's figured out what the new catalyst of Hanakawa's stress is, right? Saying all this stuff to Aragi and all of this. And I wonder, we see that Black Hanakawa's all tied up, and then a couple shots later, she's not tied up anymore, right? So, oh man, I don't remember where that was in here. But anyway, she's not tied up anymore a few shots later. So it just makes me wonder, here it is. It makes me wonder, did Oshino let her go? Because, like, she just says this thing about how, like, oh, I just got free because I wanted to. But that doesn't make sense. She was, like, struggling so much and she couldn't get out. And then suddenly she's free. Oshino is just looking down at Aragi and waves at him. It makes me wonder if this is almost like a test of some kind, because he was saying all that stuff to Aragi about how one day he won't be around anymore, and Aragi is going to have to deal with stuff on his own. And I feel like that's part of why Oshino was acting weird in the last episode, was because it's almost like he expected Aragi to be able to handle this on his own. Oh, God, there's something else I wanted to say. And then I was thinking about how it's interesting, like, he goes to all of these people for help, right? All of his little buddies, Hajikuji, Nadeko, Senjugahara, which for one, they're Kanparu. Those latter three were the were the people from the radio show. I did not expect that to come back up, but awesome. But yeah, he goes to all of his friends, all of his newfound friends, for help with this situation. Which I was thinking, for one, that it's weird he's so willing to seek out help for this, because I feel like he's wouldn't be the type of person to do that. But I guess in this case, he's not seeking out help for himself. He's seeking out help for, Shinobu, right? Even though in the end it's gonna benefit him as well, right? Because like that's kind of just how relationships with people work. He also wants Shinobu to be safe, not just for Shinobu's sake, but also his own. But I don't think he's thinking of it like that. So yeah, it makes sense. Like I don't know if anyone's actually going to be successful in finding Shinobu, but it's I don't know. It makes sense, I guess. Like if that's kind of the message behind it, that he has made all these friends now. Because yeah, it's like what they, first time an outro is being brought up. But sorry, man, my thing stops recording. I don't know why it does that. They bring up how he doesn't have any friends, and like he certainly didn't before, like what we've seen right at the start of this anime in episode 1. It seems like his only friend was like Hanakawa, and he's made a lot more friends now. So I feel like the message behind this could just be something like that, about how he's made all these friends, he has people he can rely on in life now. That's a good thing. Pretty simple, but makes sense, right? And then this line, for one, I like this, the tsundere service thing that she does. I think it shows, I think it's just very funny. I think it does a good job showing how Senju is not a tsundere, right? Because she doesn't talk like this. She is actually incredibly open and forthright about her feelings at like all times. So, I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny. And of course, her saying all of this about how, oh, I won't forgive you if you don't come back. He's like, oh, of course I'm going to come back. Don't worry. That, the whole Hanakawa killing him thing kind of rises up in my mind as a very serious possibility. So, I don't know. And then, what does he think about Shinobu here? It's just the stuff about how he's responsible for her, which is because he blames himself for the position she's in. Yeah. And then here, they have a very different, very different than that flashback we saw between them, where she was trying to kill him, right? And I feel like partially that's because, in this case, she knows what the source of Hanakawa's stress is. In this case, it's him, right? So I feel like that explains the difference in her attitude towards him. Maybe. I mean, it could just be the thing she says about how, Shinobu draining the stress is helpful to her, right? But before we get into all this whole scene about with Black Hanakawa and Araragi, I want to talk about how, like, I said this during the episode, I think, about how, so this whole possession thing, the whole way Black Hanakawa is being framed as a possession of Hanakawa, which I talked about this some last episode. I just don't remember. It's hard for me to remember what I've talked about or what I've just thought about afterwards, like in between episodes. But, it makes sense that it is framed in this way, because if we think of it as from Hanakawa's problem, that's like causing this aberration, right? It's her unwillingness to share her problems with other people because she doesn't want to feel like a burden, right? In that sense, it's like she can view her problems and all of this stuff she doesn't want to share with other people. She thinks it's like a bad thing. There's problems that she has because it burdens other people, right? And since she views it like that, it makes sense why it would manifest as like a different personality of hers, right? She views that those parts of her as a person, she views them as an entirely separate thing about her that she tries to push away and doesn't want to be part of her, right? So that's why it manifests as her being possessed by these, by this completely other alternate version of herself, even though in reality, that's part of her as a person anyway, right? It's not an alternate personality or her being possessed by an aberration, right? It's those aspects of her as a person are still part of her. It's not, the reason it manifests like this is because of the way that she views it, right? Which I think is like the same reason why for Kambaru it manifested as a possession too, because she didn't want to accept responsibility for her actions and her decisions hurting other people. I think I said basically all of that exact same stuff in the last episode, in the last reaction, in the last discussion, but whatever. And so saying all of that, it makes me wonder, when Black Hanakawa is speaking, it's framed as if she's a completely different character that's so different from Hanakawa. It would be easy to view it in a way that this is just not Hanakawa speaking. and that everything she's saying is just this weird cat thing talking and not her, right? But I feel like basically everything that she says could really just be Hanakawa talking, basically. She's acting very different, obviously, because the way she normally acts is so strange, right? It's not that it's forced, because I think it's become second nature for her to act that way. I just think these are thoughts and feelings and the way she's talking here that normally she would never express to other people. Because she thinks it's going to hurt them, right? I mean, I feel like I always have to add that on every time, my explanation for why. But, so all of that being said, with me wondering if Hanakawa is just basically talking through Black Hanakawa. This is basically just everything that Hanakawa is saying is just this is Hanakawa. It's not Black Hanakawa possessing her, right? So that makes this whole conversation that they have, which for one, I feel like we get a ton of information here about how like aberrations work and how, they really are like their very existence is like reliant on human perception of them, right? Which makes sense because that's how all the aberrations have worked. At least we've seen like the outcome of that. We've seen how all of the aberrations have been a manifestation of how the person that is being afflicted by it views their own problem that's causing the aberration, right? Um, so like, just as examples, like Sindra she could view her trauma and all of her emotions as weight, stuff that's weighing her down in life. That it would be, it's easier to just forget about all that stuff, not think about it, and just move on, right? Obviously, that's cheating, as she said, right? That's not something that weighs you down. That's what makes you a person. Your experiences and your that's why she had no weight anymore. It's not like it's like your very existence as a person and everything about you is based off of your past experiences and how you deal with them, right? And that's why the aberration, the manifestation it had on her took away all of her weight in a way that was like harmful to her. And like, I've talked about Kamoru and Hanakawa a million times. And in that case, I do wonder if this whole vampire Araragi stuff, there has to be some kind of explanation for whatever the emotional or mental issue that Araragi has, which he has several, but if there's one you can specifically pinpoint down that resulted in this whole vampire stuff happening with him, I wonder, like, whatever effect it has had on his body, which is making him, he's immortal, I don't know. There has to be some kind of underlying explanation for why it has had these effects on him, why it has manifested it in this way, based off the way that he views it. But I feel like it would basically be impossible to like work backwards. Like, I don't know. That would be very difficult to try and understand his thought process based off just the manifestation of how it has affected him afterwards. So I don't know. But yeah, this whole conversation is very interesting viewing it as just Hanakawa's words, right? You know, like just this line saying, "Now I'm a vampire." It means something. I just don't know what being a vampire means. You know, like possession or having lost all your weight. I understand what those mean emotionally for those characters. For Araragi, I don't know what being a vampire means. Hmm. And it's like, I just wonder, like this conversation they have about aberrations and how you can't. She says you can't get along with them. How you an aberration is an aberration, a human is a human, which kind of goes against like the way Araragi has talked about himself and the way some other characters have talked about Araragi, right? Araragi has referred to himself as both a vampire and as a human, right? He's referred to himself as an aberration and as a human many times. Like, so for him, it's like he does think of himself as both almost, right? And it seems like other characters almost do as well. They can't be together no matter what. They're incompatible. Which just this whole framing is very interesting because, like, her saying this, it's like this really does apply to Hanakawa as well, right? Because the way this is working out is it seems like, okay, an aberration is an aberration, a human is a human. They can't be together no matter what, they're incompatible. So for Hanakawa, right, she isn't an aberration, she's a human. So Like, this whole thing about this aberration possessing her and taking her over, well, like, no, it's really, that's still her, you know? I don't really know if that's what it's getting at. That makes sense to me. I'm kind of with Aragi that I don't really know how it applies to Aragi specifically. Like, what I can think about is, like, saying, like, if you think you're going to get along with us, you've bitten off more than you can chew. I can think of that in terms of, like, if you think you're going to get along with, if you think you can cope with the um, underlying cause of an aberration, the emotional or mental problem that has caused it to manifest in the first place. If you think that's something that can just be ignored and you can just get along with it, then you've bitten off more than you can chew, as she says, right? Which I feel like would make sense because it's obvious that Araragi has some serious issues still. Like, I don't want to be mean, but like, yeah, it's obvious, right? And it is something that it seems like he isn't really working to uh, fix about himself, right? At least, he has this whole vampire thing going on. It's like he has currently been afflicted by an aberration of some kind for these whole 14 episodes, But there's been no attempt to resolve it. There's been no attempt, he hasn't made any progress of any kind in fixing it. Um, because all of these other characters, they've had an aberration problem, we immediately go and fix it, right? Or we attempt to fix it. None of them have really been resolved perfectly at all. But in Aragi's case, he's been under the effects of an aberration this whole time. He's been a vampire this whole time. He hasn't been human, which if we view that as representative of his greater problems that he's had mentally and emotionally, yeah, we haven't really, you know, he's just trying to get along with it. Sure. There's my analysis of that, I guess. I don't know how happy I am with that. Um I don't know. I don't know. What else does she say here? She's saying something there. I don't know. And yeah, and it's like I don't really think, she doesn't mean you won't be able to get along with aberrations like in the literal sense. I think she means the underlying causes of aberrations. Um yeah, and she says, "Have you considered why the vampire ran off?" Which, like, what I was thinking is, like, in terms of what we know about Shinobu and Hanakawa, because this is Hanakawa talking. Again, I'm basically just taking all of this as Hanakawa is saying this, because I feel like that's the only thing that makes any sense. Is like Hanakawa, the reason for her stress is jealousy. It pretty much just comes down to that, right? She's jealous of Senjugahara and Araraki. Um, and what she basically implies here is that Shinobu is jealous as well. Which, I don't know, makes sense to me. Um, because that would explain why Shinobu, was glaring at Nautiko that one time after Nautiko Snake. Um, you know, I can understand why, from Shinobu's position, Aragi's behavior towards her would be very frustrating. Because he doesn't treat her like a person. Because it's not that he doesn't treat her like a person; it's that he's like, man, just the way he treats her isn't good for sure. Like, let's say she wants to. I mean, we know so little about her. I guess it's really hard to extrapolate, but I can understand why his behavior towards her, the way he views her, would be very frustrating. Hmm. And I just wonder, Hanakawa, Black Hanakawa, which, she brings up how Araragi could just abandon Shinobu and be done with it and become human again. Which, you know, Araragi would never do that, right? Because he feels like his life, he feels like his life is owed to Shinobu and Hanakawa, which I don't know how your life can be owed to two different people simultaneously. That's kind of a, but it's like, she says, "What if you don't find the vampire?" He says, "I'm screwed," and Hanakawa won't go back to normal. So, like, those are separate things. Like, he views himself as being screwed if they don't find Shinobu, because I think that's how much he thinks he owes her life to her so much that without her existing, it's almost like if she was gone, his life has no purpose, basically. Because I imagine him being so responsible for her continuing to be alive, it would seem like, is uh, probably something that's pretty important to him. It's almost like it's motivation for him in a way, even though I'm sure he beats himself up about it so much and views it in such a negative way. And she suggests, would he be better off without the vampire? You can go back to being human. Hmm. And obviously, Araragi would never do that, but I don't know. I'm just trying to think what Hanakawa is really getting at here. If we take it from the point that this is kind of surface level, this is kind of silly to say because I don't think this is all there is to this conversation, but I'm going to say it anyway. If we take it from Hanakawa's jealous of Aragi and all of this, right? She says like, "Oh, don't you think Shinobu could be jealous about you hanging out with all these girls?" Well, Hanakawa feels like that, right? That is Hanakawa is certainly feeling like that. Um, so it's almost like her saying, why don't you just, you know, we could just go back, not go back to the way it was before, because, but it's like she's suggesting the same thing that she is saying Shinobu would want, to stop hanging around all these other girls and abandon Shinobu and, all of that, right? For her own benefit, I would assume, right? Because that's kind of Hanakawa's, motivation here is the jealousy thing, right? And despite her kind of it's almost like she's doing the same thing she was doing in the bookstore in the Nautico Snake episode when it seemed like she was like imprinting her own feelings on emotions on Senjugahara through her speech. It's like, you could say she's doing that here with Shinobu as well, but I feel like her explanation of Shinobu's behavior of disappearing, if that could be her reason, is jealousy. I feel like that makes sense for her as well. So, hmm, I man, I can't help but get the feeling that I'm missing stuff. And, I hope I'm not missing anything obvious. I just feel like there is a lot of subtext to many of the things that, specifically in this conversation between Hanakawa and Araragi, that I don't really understand. That, I mean, I guess I had some kind of explanation for most of what was said here. I just don't think I'm really happy with it exactly. Um, And I guess that annoys me. I hope it doesn't annoy you if you wanted me to understand it, because I just can't shake the feeling that there's a lot of stuff that was said here that I feel like I don't have enough information to draw much else from yet. Like, there's a lot of stuff, like, you know, I don't know. I guess just, I hope people won't be disappointed, I guess, because I am disappointed with myself that there's a lot of stuff here I feel like I'm not getting. Um, and I don't know if it's just stuff that I shouldn't be able to get, but I feel like there wouldn't be this long of an exposition scene and this long of a conversation between them if it was just impossible to grasp the analogies and the allegories behind what they're saying here. Um, but I guess I just don't know if I can pick up on it exactly, unfortunately. So, hmm, I don't know. I hope there's nothing I forgot to talk about this time. I don't really think so. Talked about that conversation. Talked about his feelings about Shinobu. Talked about him going to talk to all of his friends. Um, Talked about all of this. I talked about my suspicions of Oshino and her explanations there. Um, okay, well now I'm thinking. Okay, now I'm thinking something completely like this whole scene about Hanakawa and Araragi. This scene between Black Hanakawa and Araragi, where he's acting like a loser about her, right? And very infatuated by her. Um, it makes me think about it like this, right? Hanakawa, Black Hanakawa is representative for Araragi of all of this stuff that like she is ashamed of, maybe not exactly ashamed of, but stuff she doesn't want to show other people. And because of what she thinks, of how it will be a burden on other people, right? Um, and it's interesting. Araragi acts so like infatuated and so, uh, he acts like this about her when she's in this Black Hanakawa form that, uh, you could take it in two ways. You could take it to be like it's almost a counterpoint to Hanakawa's mindset, right? Her thinking all of her problems and everything will be a burden on other people and all of that. Because Aragi is certainly pretty into it when she's like this, right? Um, you could also take it like the actual effect that she has on people, this whole energy drain thing, you know? I feel like that's more so born of Hanakawa's view of those emotions and those feelings that she doesn't want to share other people. Uh, like, you know, she is draining energy from other people by like you can almost view that as her mindset of being a burden on other people is like, you know, when she interacts with other people through the representation of those thoughts and feelings, she energy drains them. Like literally, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But sure, there's your explanation for the weird like almost fan service stuff, except not really. There's obviously reasons behind it, reason behind why Aragi reacts like this. But, anyway, I think that's all I want to say. Even though I'm really not satisfied. I mean, like, I don't know. People always tell me that the discussion was like good, but that doesn't change that I feel like I am not picking up on some stuff that I could be picking up on. Um, because I feel like there's just some like threshold for me being satisfied with my explanation for stuff. And if I don't have an explanation for pretty much every line in every conversation in the entire episode, then I feel like I'm missing stuff. And this, to me, this doesn't feel like the type of conversation that you're meant to not grasp fully, unless the feeling of me not grasping it fully is just like wrong. But I feel like there's clear some kind of subtext to a lot of lines here that I don't fully understand. But oh well, that sucks. I've been talking for way too long about this. So yeah, next time we were watching the last one, and by next time I mean I'm gonna watch it right now because I'm making a backlog. So I'll see you guys in the next one.